Today has been a long day. I had to work double overtime without pay, and my wife is borrowing my car, so I had to walk home at around 1:30 a.m. The streets are much different at night. There isn't a single car in sight, and the only light is from distant streetlights, making most everything dark. The isolation is mysterious in ways, but mostly calm and peaceful. You almost forget that you can get mugged any second. I tried not to think about this as I walked a mile and a half walk home. My eyesight started to get hazy and blurry, and my eyelids refused to stay open. Did I mention I was insanely tired? Already, I almost passed out on the sidewalk twice. I should have grabbed a cup of coffee for the 30-minute walk. As I started tripping off for the third time now, I saw some people across the street weren't getting mugged. I didn't know what to do. Then I saw the mugger pull out a gun and shoot the guy in the head. I immediately woke up and started running down the street as fast as I could. I'm about 0.4 miles from my home. As I sprinted, I heard him shoot at me. Adrenaline shot through my body as I ran faster and longer than I ever had before. When I got home, I locked the door and ran to my room to stay with my wife. We stayed up for another 2 hours until we drifted off. I saw the man who got shot right in front of me. Am I dreaming? He looked at me straight in the eyes. Why have you not told the police? I got shot and you just stood there. I'm sorry. He looked down and looked back up, his eyes black. He fell to the floor. Behind him was the man that shot him. He aimed the gun towards me and fired. I woke up in my room. I think I was just hallucinating. I figured I had hit my head on the ground pretty hard when I passed out those 2 times. I walked downstairs to get my coffee and got to work. This time, I had my car. I'm at work. Yeah, I work at this crummy office at the AT&T building. I'm looking through the local news website and see a story on the murderer. Oh, I guess it's a pretty big deal. It made me remember the dream I had. Whatever the case, the murderer wasn't caught and the victim was in my dreams. The only reason I'm not flipping out is because I know it was only a nightmare. I would go to the police, but I didn't get a good look at the murderer. The only real info I had was the time, 1:50, the place in the alley by the Drunken Turtle bar, and that he was shooting at me. My boss saw that I was off task, and I got another stupid warning. My day was already starting to suck. Much worse though, on my way home, in the darkness, I thought I saw the victim of the murder in the glass of a thrift shop. It's almost as if he's trying to make me feel more guilty than I already am. Why won't he leave me alone? I drive the rest of the nervous trip home and climb into bed with my wife. I start to hope that I might get a good night's sleep tonight. I drift away into the dream world. There he is again. I shout, "Why are you still following me?" The man, devoid of life in his eyes, said, "Why didn't you help me? Why did you let me die?" I yelled, "Please, just go away." The man screams and I snap back to reality. It's early in the morning. I go downstairs to the kitchen and eat breakfast and head out the door. I am determined to find out who the murderer is. My wife borrowed my car again, so I had to walk to get to the library. I logged into the file records of the crimes of the last 2 years. I was a former officer, so I know exactly how to get to the police records. I looked through the criminal's pictures. I bring back the memory of the murderer's face as I scroll. I find the right picture, who is known as Pablo Rodriguez. He's a Mexican man born in Massachusetts and the U.S. I check my watch to make sure I was on time. Shit, I mumble as I find out that I'm 5 minutes late on my schedule. I run out the door and start walking to the AT&T building. The only way I could make it on time was to take a shortcut. I walk into an alleyway and go on past the hardware store. As I turn the corner, I find myself being punched in the stomach and thrown against the wall. I feel my side cramp up and I cringe in pain. The man pulls a gun on me and I elbow him in the jaw. I saw his face for a split second before I darted. It was Pablo. I am running really fast and my side is starting to flare with pain. I call the police and they show up on the scene. They told me the man wasn't there when they arrived. By now I've had enough of this shit. It's been 3 more restless nights dreaming of the victim and Pablo Rodriguez. For some reason I feel like I'm not alone inside my head. I am never without disturbance, and I can't get rid of these nightmares. At this point my wife is starting to worry. She says I need to calm down and that I'm safe, but I know inside that I'm not. She has no idea what I know and how messed up my life is right now. At work, I get scolded for always being late and not getting my work done right. This nonsense is getting to my head and I can't think straight anymore. I keep feeling the urge. Something I can't exactly explain. Just an urge for violence that I can't satisfy. One night I went to bed knowing that once again I would have a nightmare. The victim's black eyes stared in mine. I saw a vision of myself. My wife and child were crying and sobbing uncontrollably. I look down as the coffin closes. I feel an overwhelming sadness come over me. The next day, my wife climbed into a box with her neck tied to the ceiling with a rope as she jumped. She struggled and sputtered, gasping for air that she couldn't have. My wife's body went limp and she was gone. This was way too much for me to handle. I sobbed over all I had seen. My kid would go without a real mom or dad. My wife would go crazy over my death and commit suicide. I now understood clearly what the victim must have felt before his death. "Kill him," he said. "Kill him." He said it over and over. The dream ended and I woke up with my pillow wet from tears. It was still night, but I got out of bed anyways. I grabbed my coat and shoes and a knife. I walk out the door and go out to where Rodriguez tried to mug me. I waited and waited until he came, but he didn't, so I went back home. I did this every night for 1 week and 3 days. Finally, the night came where he grabbed me by the arm. I grabbed my knife and stabbed his thigh. I twisted the knife and took Pablo's gun. Now for a little fun, I thought. But it wasn't exactly me who was thinking this. It wasn't the real me, at least. I shot him in the kneecap and kicked him in the face while he was on the ground. Then I grabbed the pistol and hit him in the face until blood spurted out from his nose and mouth. I'd take broken pieces of glass and shove it in his mouth while I uppercut him with my right hand. I'd go inside the hardware store to get a little surprise from the murderer. I grabbed kerosene, a rag, and a bucket from the shelf and walk back outside. I stand up and throw him face first into a trash can. Then I put the bucket on his head and beat him half to death. Then I shoved the rag down his throat and poured kerosene on him and blew him on fire. I watched his body burn as his muffled screams resonate through the silent night. Then I left him there and walked back home. The voices no longer bothered me. I let out an insane laugh and went to sleep. This was the most quiet night of sleep I've had in weeks. In the morning I felt great, but I got a phone call about the death of Pablo Rodriguez, saying that I'm a suspect. People must have saw me walking in the area last night. I went into this police station for questioning about the murder. "Were you in the area at the time of this murder?" the officer asked. I told him, "I was certainly there. I watched it all happen. I watched as he was beaten and tortured. I saw the life draining from his eyes. I felt the heat of the fire that blazed around him, and I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for the voices." In my few days at jail, I slept perfectly. The best nights of sleep so far. I usually sit around in my cell and wait, but everyone seems scared of me. I don't know why I scare them so much, but they keep their distance from me, which gives me time alone. I can be peaceful and sleep well now. People might think you should be scared to go to court or be put away in a mental hospital, but I'm not. I'm happy everything's already over with. At the courtroom, I was waiting for our turn of the case. The judge asked what we plead. My lawyer told him the defendant pleads insanity. He then went on, explaining what had happened to me. The man appearing in my dreams, the voices, me not thinking on my own. In about an hour, I was sent off to a mental institution. There I was put in a straitjacket and questioned. "Why did you do this?" they asked. Ever since I saw the man murdered in front of me, He's been talking to me, torturing me, thinking for me. He showed me what he thought before death. He showed me what that man was capable of, but worst of all, he showed me what life would be like if I hadn't done what I did. At this, they took me to my room. Even though it was unnecessary now that he's dead, I don't mind being here. This is my new life. I don't need to worry about anything anymore.